What's going on, guys? Welcome to a new series of episode reviews. This is going to be for One Punch Man Season 3, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade. So I guess we should point out, before we even get into the episode, there's obviously been, a lot of controversy about this upcoming season, a lot of speculation about, what it's going to look like, what studio was handling it. But when it was announced, people were wondering if MAPPA was going to handle it. But apparently, we learned later on that it was actually going to just be JC Staff again, the same studio that handled Season 2. And Season 2, the problem with One Punch Man is that it had, such a great first season, and it was done by Madhouse, and it was just done by so many talented animators, and that it was just going to be really hard for them to follow up with another season that looked nearly as good. And also because of the studio change, that led to a lot of other issues. Just, it's the fact that it was a different studio, and the studio apparently has multiple projects they're working on at the same time, which is, I guess, a consistent issue with JC Staff, as opposed to Madhouse. And they just, for whatever reason, they just don't really seem to care much about putting a lot of effort into giving us a halfway decent One Punch Man adaptation. So Season 2 just had a lot of issues. A lot of it was pretty rushed. So it just didn't end up looking nearly as good as Season 1. So basically we get around to finally Season 3 coming out, which we've already had a 6-year hiatus in between Season 2 and Season 3. And you would think that because we had so much time in between Season 2 and Season 3 that maybe they would spend a little bit more time trying to brush up the animation or just give us something that looks at least a little bit better than Season 2. But right before this, the season came out, we didn't really get any information at all about Season 3, and that was pretty worrying because you would think that if they were confident in the way that Season 3 looked, they would be releasing trailers or giving us some kind of a teaser or something for Season 3, but we got pretty much nothing. I mean, I don't think we really got anything. We actually didn't even get a trailer, I don't think, for Season 3, right up until I think it was the day before this episode came out. We got a trailer, but it was mostly scenes, I think, from the first episode. And we didn't get any information about who's working on Season 3. That was the other I guess kind of big controversy is the staff who was involved in Season 3. Apparently the guy who's directing it doesn't really have he's I guess relatively new, and he doesn't really have a lot of experience. So a lot of people were concerned because of that as well. I feel bad for the guy because he was saying on Twitter, I guess he came out and said, yeah, I know, I'm maybe not the best for the job or something, but I hope you'll give me a chance or something like that. But, so I don't really think it's his fault necessarily. I really kind of put the blame more so on the studio, and that they just didn't really, put any time and resources into trying to make Season 3 any better than Season 2. And Episode 1, unfortunately, kind of, I feel sort of proves a lot of people correct in being concerned about Season 3 just either going down, being more or less the same as Season 2, if not worst case scenario, if not potentially worse. There were some good things that people pointed out, the art direction, I guess, so far is maybe a little bit better than Season 2. But animation wise, I mean, and this is just from what I observed. I mean, I read up on what some people were saying later, but just from my own observations, everything looked immediately I just noticed everything looked really stiff. This episode is very dialogue heavy. So there's just a lot of characters in a room talking, and the way things, it's not only just the animation, but honestly, the way things are directed, it's just very flat direction. There's just a lot of camera panning shots, and a lot of it I feel is to sort of cover up the lackluster animation, because if you notice, there's just not a lot of movement happening. A lot of the animation is just the different characters' mouths moving, and that's pretty much it. So
there's just nothing going on with this episode in particular.
And the other problem too is that I don't know, maybe this is how it is in the manga, but it's just kind of, honestly, in my opinion, it's kind of a boring episode. I know it's a setup episode, but as a first episode, I feel you want to have you want to put a lot of more effort into Episode 1 just to get people maybe to hook people. And really this didn't really do much for me, honestly. I mean, we don't really get much of Saitama. He shows up briefly. A lot of it is just setting up this raid on the monster organization or whatever, because they they're like going to raid their headquarters, I guess, and that's really all it is, and it's just honestly like it's just not really that interesting. And it doesn't really get me excited, like having seen this episode. I'm just like, and especially just considering, like I mentioned, the animation just has not really gotten any better. I mean, you could argue it's maybe gotten a little bit worse, which is just crazy considering like I said, the time in between season 2 and 3. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of just meh on the whole episode, to be honest with you. I mean, like I said, it just didn't really do anything to get me that interested in what's going to happen. And I mean, it's just, yeah, it doesn't look that good either. So,
Yeah, I mean, basically the premise of this episode is just it is what it is. It's a setup episode. Just it takes place, of course, after the events of season 2, which if people remember, it focused on like the fight between Silverfang and Garo, and of course Garo gets injured in that fight, and he gets abducted by the Monsters Association to meet with Orochi, and then Genos was in the meantime was also fighting like this giant centipede monster by himself before being saved by Saitama at the last minute. So so now like we get the setup about like what the Heroes Association or the organization is looking to to go up against the Monsters Association by getting like the S rank heroes, and then like potentially getting even more heroes like the A ranks to possibly be promoted to S ranks or whatnot. It's just that like you said, there's a lot of dialogue going on in this episode with basically just no action whatsoever happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, we set up that the they're the Heroes Association are trying to figure out what to do about the I guess the Monster Association. And we get reintroduced to other characters like Tatsumaki, or what was it, the Tornado, and some of the other side characters, Child Emperor. And then eventually we get back to Saitama, who is of course just kind of like lazing around and playing video games, and while Genos is recovering from his injuries, and King is there. What was it? I think Bang is there, and he's also recovering. But yeah, then Miss Blizzard shows up, and of course it's just kind of turning into somewhat of a running joke, is that she's trying to recruit Saitama to be part of her Blizzard Bunch gang. But Saitama doesn't really have much interest in that, and he just kind of decides, I guess, to go off on his own, and he says something like, I'm gonna go punch Karo or something.
And then like get something from the grocery store or whatnot. That's about it. And then we also catch up with Garo again. I think this is just like a council meeting between all the monsters of the Monsters Association, and they task Garo to to go after like a hero and bring back his head, but not before I think a couple members of the Monsters Association being tasked to keep an eye on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the post-credit scene at the end of the episode, we see, what was it, Speedosonic Sound again. Nothing else going on with that scene. He's just looking to find ways to to get back at Saitama after the last season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's I guess basically, there's nothing else after that. So we don't know what's gonna happen in the next episode, unless Saitama like goes up against some big monster that he'll just take down in one punch again.
Yeah, I think once we get more into, I guess, the fight scenes, that's when people are really gonna start, talking more about the animation and all that. I mean, but even just in this episode, I mean, honestly, it's kind of, it's pretty bad if it's just an episode where there's not really any action or fight scenes, but it's mostly just like dialogue heavy scenes. And I mean, even that is just kind of animated fairly, like kind of not very well. And there's just a lot of still frames, and a lot of like just speed lines, camera panning shots, and it's just very like people have pointed out, and that it's very flat direction. There's not really anything like you can make a dialogue scene interesting, but they don't really do anything to make it like interesting to watch. So a lot of the time I was just kind of honestly I was just kind of bored. I mean, like I said, I know it's a setup episode, but I don't know. I mean, and I haven't seen One Punch Man in a while, but this episode just didn't really do anything for me to get me interested in like what's currently happening. Um,
I was literally just waiting for something to happen in this episode,
yeah,
yet, but unfortunately, like it just, I it was just a long extended slog, just watching nothing but people talking nonstop.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm trying to reserve judgment until we get to like more fight scenes, I guess. But I don't really have high expectations considering what we've seen so far. I mean, worst case scenario, it's just going to be a complete dumpster fire once we get to that. I mean, hopefully, I guess the best we can hope for is that it doesn't look terrible. Like maybe it looks passable at best. But like I said, I just have like almost no expectations for that once we get to the fight scenes. I mean, especially if season 2 was any indication as to what we could probably expect from when we get to that part. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I mean, I guess it could have been worse. I don't know. I get that's not really. I know it doesn't really sound good, but I guess considering like what a lot of people were saying, I guess it could have been a lot worse than what this ended up being. But I guess it wasn't terrible. So, but again, like it was still just episode 1, so I guess it really remains to be seen. Like just maybe how much worse it could get.
I guess the one disadvantage this season had when they were about to start is where they ended it off in
Mhm.
that because like even back then, like many people thought like that season ended off in a weird spot, and it just felt a little bit anticlimactic at the time. And now like they now with season 3 back, they're literally following up on that particular episode, and of course they needed to find a way to set things up for this season, but unfortunately they didn't really start off in a good spot where you know I mean it's not really a particularly exciting spot for it to start off on.
Yeah,
Like if they could have just made season 3 a part of season 2 in the first place, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and now we literally just waited 5-6 years just to get back to this point with JC Staff back on the helm again.
yeah. I mean, I know that's a good point. Like if season 2 just ended in a weird place, I mean, it just seems like they didn't really, I guess, strategically like place some of the the episodes to where like episode 1 of season 3 could have been something, maybe a point in the story where it's actually getting interesting again, or just something to hook the audience again. But just the way it starts, it's just kind of like, again, it's just the whole thing's just set up, and it's just, I mean, it could have been done well, but it's just the way it was presented was just kind of in a way that's like it doesn't really do anything to help an episode that's already just full of just dialogue and talking and not much else. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say though. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
No, I mean it. I mean it is what it is. Unfortunately, I mean that's how we're starting off with season 3 with One Punch Man. So I guess we'll have to find out what's going to happen in the next episode, whether or not they'll at least make some improvements. I mean, I have my expectations of whether or not this will be somewhat better than season 2, but I mean that's all I can hope for at this point.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, guys, that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.